Welcome to Shoot the Shit with DSP. I'm David Scott Peters. It's Friday, not traveling, so I'm here for you. I'm excited to have you. A lot of big things going on around here. I've got in process a brand new website in the works, going to be released here in probably a couple weeks, in conjunction with a brand new coaching software to just take our coaching to a whole new level with accountability for our members, the ability to communicate better. We're so thrilled to get that rolled out. We're just a little delayed. I was hoping we'd be out by now, but traveling next week, so we're gonna have to wait one more week after that in order to get it going. But for my members, it's gonna be an exciting time. For you all, an exciting time because we're just getting better. We're starting to hone in some really great messaging. When I say messaging, I've been doing this for 23 years. Come this July, I will start year 24. I was the first restaurant coach out there. And I can tell you that we have really focused in on understanding what we do. I talk about restaurant prosperity, freedom for your restaurant, the financial freedom you deserve. And I'm going to tell you that is still what we do. However, really looking at it, what we really do is give you clarity under pressure. Because a lot of restaurant owners don't know where to start. They overwhelm themselves, try and fix everything at once, and kind of start all the projects and never finish. We teach our members based on their budgets, based on their situation, based on what they need to get done, what their path looks like, and what the first thing to do is. That's the clarity, because the pressure is around us all the time. And then we've been developing more and more, easy to follow systems to ensure that you just don't start projects and never finish them. That you don't put yourself in a position that, you're not able to get your managers to do the work, your employees to follow through what you need to get that done, because that's ultimately what we need. We need people to follow through, and that's helping you become the leader you need to be. So it's an exciting time here at Take Action Enterprises, aka DavidScottPeters.com, the restaurant prosperity formula. You pick it. We're here for you. Hey man, I bought a little time to get the good mornings. Let's see those of you who are logging in and saying good morning. Mary DeLeon's in the house. Good morning, Mary. I appreciate you taking the review of the website yesterday. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like. If you're joining, make sure you're logged into your Google account, that you can log in. You can participate in the chat, because as you can see, I can pull that together. But I've kind of talked a little too long, so I think I'm going to start us. I'm hitting my light, getting it too bright. Just double checking here. We're good to go. So I am going to do this. We're going to get started. Welcome to Shoot the Shit with DSP. STS with DSP happens every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, live on YouTube, travel schedule permitting. We're going to invest about 30 minutes out of your day to get pumped about the upcoming weekend, get excited about crushing your goals, and finding the motivation to be the best you possible. Plus, I'll answer your burning questions. I'm David Scott Peters, creator of the Restaurant Prosperity Formula, and your coach. And again, as a reminder, make sure that you are logging into your YouTube account, your Google account. They're synonymously the same thing. So you can participate in the chat, I should say, like Steve Eller is here. Good morning to you, Steve. I hope that I'm not driving you absolutely batty with all the shit that I've got us chasing right now. Because we got a big presentation next week, and got to have that QR code, got to have that new setup. Old site's going to go away. Here we go. Let's get started. Just as an FYI, before we get into today's topic, do me a favor. Not only log into your Google account, but because if you want to participate, that's how we're going to get it done. I will tell you that at the end of this, if you're brand new here, I open it up for your discussions. Because today, we're going to talk about something that sounds boring. Really, really boring until you realize the difference it can have in controlling your food cost. That way, you're just not complaining about it every week. So let's get started. Let's talk about inventory. Not counting, control. Because inventory isn't counting, control. It's control. Here's the shift. A lot of restaurant pros think inventory is, the thing they do because their accountant wants numbers, or because the bookkeeping needs ending inventory, or because some coach like me saying, you've got to take inventory. And because they look at it that way, they treat it like a task. Walk around, count the cases, write down the numbers, enter it somewhere, done. Check the box. And then they wonder why the food cost is still all over the place. That's because counting inventory is not the win. Counting inventory is just the beginning. The real win is what inventory exposes. It exposes whether your ordering is disciplined or emotional. It exposes whether prep is based on a system or based on whoever started counting and standing in the kitchen that day. It exposes whether waste is being tracked or conveniently ignored. It exposes whether your managers are accountable or just busy. It exposes whether your food cost is predictable or a weekly slap in the face. And if you're a restaurant pro trying to get control of your prime cost, inventory is not optional. It's the steering wheel. You can't say you want to control your food cost while refusing to look at the one number that tells you what actually is happening to the product you bought. That's like saying you want to lose weight, but you refuse to step on a scale, track food, or look in the mirror. Come on. At some point in time, reality gets a vote. And in your restaurant, inventory is reality. Now, this topic came up in a discussion I had with one of my coaches, David Militello. Now, David has been working with me on and off for over 20 years. He was one of my first 5 members I ever had. And he worked in my old company and now back. And we had debates back and forth on what the next thing restaurant owners should do. Where should we really focus our effort? And we were talking about what really has to happen when a member, a restaurant pro, says, I want to control my food costs. And that hard truth is this. If you want to control food cost, inventory is the key. And David really drove that point home with me. As an operator still today with multiple units and all the challenges go into running a restaurant while coaching other restaurants, inventory became the key. Not because inventory magically lowers your food cost. It doesn't. Inventory is not a magic wand. You don't count your walk-in and suddenly the food cost fairy sprinkles profitability dust all over your kitchen. Wouldn't that be nice? No. Inventory gives you the information you need to make better decisions. It tells you what you used. It tells you what you're sitting on. It tells you what moved. It tells you what didn't move. It tells you where you're overbuying. It tells you where you're under prepping. It tells you where your systems are weak. It tells you where your team is winging it. And once you know those things, you can coach. You can correct. You can adjust. You can hold people accountable. That's why inventory isn't counting. It's control. Now, let's break this down. When most restaurant pros hear inventory, they think one thing, the physical count. How many cases of fries? How many pounds of ground beef? How many bottles of vodka? How many bags of flour? And yes, you have to count. But the count by itself doesn't do much unless it's connected to 4 things: accountability, ordering, prep, and predictable prime cost. That is where the power is. Let's start with accountability. Inventory creates accountability because it removes the fog, and fog is where excuses live. You know the excuses. We were really busy. The vendor shorted us. The cook must have overportioned. We had a lot of waste. Prices went up. The new guy messed up prep. Okay, maybe. Maybe all of this is true. But without inventory, you're guessing, and restaurant pros lose money when they guess. Inventory says, let's stop debating feelings and look at the facts. You bought this much. You sold this much. You ended with this much. So where did the rest go? The question changes everything, because now you're not just asking, why is food cost high? You're asking better questions. Did we overorder? Did we prep too much? Did we waste product? Did we misring something in? Did we portion incorrectly? Did something walk out the back door? Did we transfer product without recording it? Did we comp items without tracking them? Did we have no sales, voids, or discounts hiding in the shift? That's accountability. Not yelling, not accusing, not becoming the angry restaurant pro storming through the kitchen looking for someone to blame. That's amateur hour. Accountability is clarity. It's clear expectations, clear measurements, and clear follow-up. Inventory gives you the measurement. Then your job is to coach the behavior. Now let's talk about ordering. This is where a lot of money gets trapped. Many restaurants order emotionally. They don't call it that, of course. They call it experience. They call it, I know my business. They call it, I've been here for doing this for 20 years. And sure, experience matters. But experience without numbers can be expensive confidence. That's a polite way of saying you're guessing with swagger. Ordering has to be tied to what you actually need. And inventory helps you, know what you actually need. Without inventory, ordering often becomes one of two things: over-ordering because you're afraid to run out, or under-ordering because cash is tight and you're trying to survive the week. Both create problems. Over-ordering ties up cash, crowds up your walk-in, increases spoilage, hides waste, and makes the team think there's always plenty. Under-ordering creates emergency runs, inconsistent prep, missed sales, angry guests, and managers making bad substitutions because they're out of what they need. Inventory brings discipline to ordering. It helps you move from, I think we need this, to based on usage, sales, par levels, and what's on hand, this is what I need. That's a massive shift. Because once ordering is based on inventory, you start controlling the flow of product through the restaurant. And controlling the flow of product is controlling cash. Remember this: food sitting on the shelves is cash wearing a disguise. It looks like cases, bottles, boxes, and bags, but it's cash. And when you're over-ordered, you're not being prepared. When you turn cash into stuff that can spoil, shrink, get wasted, get stolen, or just sit until someone eventually says, do we still need this, or can we still use this? That's not a system, that's a museum. And some of you have a walk-in that look like an archaeological dig. You open a box and discover something from a menu you stopped running 3 specials ago. Inventory prevents that, or at least it exposes it so you can stop pretending it's normal. Now let's talk about prep. Inventory and prep are tied together, whether you realize it or not. If your team does not know what is on hand, what is needed, and what is expected, prep becomes a guessing game. And kitchen guessing games are expensive. Prep should be based on sales history, PARs, usage, and expected demand. Not on somebody saying, make a bunch. Make a bunch is not a prep system. It's a cry for help. A good prep system answers specific questions. What do we need for today? What do we need for tomorrow? What is already prepped? What needs to be used first? What product is close to turning? What are the par levels? What does sales history tell us? Inventory feeds that process. If you're not taking inventory, your prep list is floating in space. Your kitchen might be prepping too much on one item and not enough on another item. You might be throwing away product because nobody caught that you already had enough. You might be 86ing items because nobody realized you were short until service started. And then everyone acts surprised. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised by the things your systems were supposed to catch. That's the point. Inventory gives you a prep process that has a backbone. And it helps your managers and kitchen leaders make decisions based on what is true, not what they think is true. And that matters because food cost is not controlled only after the fact. Food cost is controlled before the product is used. It's controlled when you order. It's controlled when you receive. It's controlled when you store. It's controlled when you prep. It's controlled when you portion. It's controlled when you sell. It's controlled when you track waste. Inventory touches all of that. That's why treating inventory like bookkeeping chore is such a mistake. It's not a bookkeeping chore. It's an operational control. Now, let's bring this to prime cost. Prime cost is total cost of goods sold plus total labor costs, including taxes, benefits, and insurance. It's the most important number in your restaurant. Not sales, not guest counts, not how busy you felt. Prime cost. Because prime cost tells you whether your restaurant has a chance to make money. And if you want predictable prime costs, you need predictable food and beverage costs. And if you want predictable food and beverage costs, you need inventory. Otherwise, your numbers are distorted. Here's why. Cost of goods sold is not just purchases. This is where a lot of restaurant pros get fooled. They look at purchases and think, that's my food cost. No, it's not. Purchases are what you bought. Cost of goods sold is what you used. And to know what you used, you need beginning inventory, purchases, and ending. Beginning inventory plus purchases minus ending inventory equals cost of goods sold. That's the formula. Because if you skip inventory, your food cost is basically a blurry photograph. You might be close. You might be way off. You might think you had a great week because purchases were low, but really, you burned through inventory you already paid for. Or you might think you had a terrible week because purchases were high, but really, you stocked up and still have the product sitting on the shelves. Inventory gives you context. Without it, your number can lie to you. And when your numbers lie to you, your decisions get worse. You cut labor when food cost was the real problem. You raised prices when waste was the real problem. You blame the chef for when over-ordering was the real problem. You blame the vendor when portioning was the real problem. You blame the economy when the systems are the real problem. And yes, the economy matters. Prices matter. Customer counts matter. Wages matter. But if you don't have control inside your four walls, the outside pressure will crush you faster. Inventory is one of the ways you might have a chance of fighting back. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. DSP, I hate inventory. Of course you do. Most people hate things that reveal the truth. That's why people avoid budgets, scales, blood pressure cuffs, and performance reviews. Inventory tells you what's really going on. And sometimes what's really going on is ugly. But ugly truth beats beautiful denial every time. Because you can fix ugly truth. You can't fix what you refuse to measure. So let me give you the shift I want you to make today. Stop asking, did we take inventory? Start asking, what did inventory tell us? That's the leadership question. What did inventory tell us about ordering? What did inventory tell us about prep? What did inventory tell us about waste? What did inventory tell us about par levels? What did inventory tell us about menu mix? What did inventory tell us about accountability? What did inventory tell us about cash? That's the conversation your managers should be having. Not just we counted. Great. Congratulations. You counted cans. Now what? The count is only valuable if it leads to action. If the inventory report shows you're over-ordering on chicken, what changes? If it shows you're short on high-volume item, what changes? If it shows your theoretical food costs and actual food costs are far apart, what changes? If it shows waste is climbing, what changes? If it shows a manager keeps over-ordering, what changes? If nothing changes, inventory becomes theater. And I don't want restaurant theater. I want control. I want a restaurant pro to be able to walk into their restaurant and know the systems are working. Not hope, know. Now, let's talk about where to start. Because some of you already are overwhelmed. You're thinking, okay, DSP, I get it. Inventory matters. But where do I begin? You have two practical paths. Path one, food and beverage software. Path two, a spreadsheet. Now, let me be clear. Software can be a great move. The right software can help you inventory, order, do recipe costing cards, run your theoretical food cost, update your vendor pricing, prep systems, waste, reporting. It can save you time. It can improve accuracy. It can help you manage the flow. and follow a consistent process. But software is not a substitute for discipline. Software does not fix your lazy culture. Software does not make your managers care. Software does not magically create accountability. Software is a tool. A powerful tool, yes, but still a tool. If you buy software and your team refuses to use it correctly, you don't have a software problem, you have a leadership problem. There it is. Tiny little truth grenade for your Friday this morning. Now, path 2 is spreadsheets. And I know some people hear spreadsheet and immediately roll their eyes, but spreadsheets are better than doing nothing. A simple spreadsheet can get you started. List your key products, create units of measure, enter counts, track beginning inventory, purchases, and ending inventory. Build your cost of goods sold. Start watching your numbers weekly. Start identifying patterns. Start asking better questions. You do not need perfection to begin. You need movement. Too many restaurant pros delay control because they're waiting for the perfect system. They say, we'll start inventory once we pick software. Then software takes months. Then setup takes longer. Then training gets delayed. Then no one owns it. Then a year goes by. And they're still saying, we really need to get inventory under control. No kidding. And while they wait, profit leaks out the back door wearing an apron. So here's your Monday action. Decide. That's it. Decide if food and beverage software is your move, or if you're creating a spreadsheet to get started and not wait. Don't let we're looking into software become your excuse for doing nothing. And do not let we don't have software become the reason you keep flying blind. Monday, make the decision, software or spreadsheet. Then take the first step. If it's software, assign one person to research options, schedule demos, and define what you need the software to do, not what looks shiny. Now, you need to do it. Right? You need to do it. Inventory. That software needs to take inventory. It needs to help with ordering. It needs to have recipe costing guards. It needs to have theoretical versus actual. It should be able to help me control waste and record it. It should have great reporting. You should have manager usability. The UI needs to be easy or my managers won't use it. Now, if it's a spreadsheet, build the first version, not the perfect version. The first version. Start with your top dollar and highest volume items. Yes, it's not going to be a complete and accurate inventory, but we're going to track our proteins and count our seafood and cheese. And when we get to our liquor and wine and beer and that for the bar, key items that move the needle, you can expand from there. But start, because here's the hard truth. You cannot control what you do not measure. And you cannot measure food costs correctly without inventory. Inventory is not the sexy part of the business. Nobody opened their restaurant because they dreamed of counting romaine chicken thighs and tequila bottles. But the restaurant pro who wins, well, these pros are the people who are not the ones who only do the fun parts. They're the ones who do the boring things consistently enough to create freedom. That's the game. Freedom is built through discipline. Predictable profit is built through systems. And control is built through measurement. Inventory is one of those measurements. So stop treating inventory like a punishment. Stop treating it like accounting homework. Stop treating it like something you'll get to when things slow down. Things don't slow down. Restaurants are chaos machines. Your job is to install enough systems that chaos doesn't get to run the place. Inventory is one of those systems. And once you shift your mindset, inventory is counting to inventory is control, everything changes. You stop asking your team to count boxes. You start asking them to manage product. You stop reacting to bad food costs. You start preventing it. You stop wondering where the money went. You start seeing where it went. And when you see it, you can fix it. That's the shift. Inventory isn't counting, it's control. So your Monday action is simple. Decide if food and beverage software is your move or if creating a spreadsheet, and it's time to get started. No waiting, no overthinking, no hiding behind. We're working on it. Pick the path, take the step, start controlling the product. Because if you want predictable prime costs, you need predictable food costs. And if you want predictable food costs, inventory is the key. That's my portion of Shoot the Shit with DSP today. Now let's jump into your questions. All right, let's see what we got here. How we doing on time and were there any issues? Let's see what my team says. There's nothing here. We're doing good on time. I may have run a little bit long on the lesson. So now let's see, because I ran long on the lesson, let's make sure you guys still have an opportunity, or if you want, to ask me a question, because now is your time to do so. I will let you know as I'm giving you an opportunity to type in your questions that there is no Shoot the Shit next Friday, June 5th. I will be in Sacramento on my third part of my journey, racing in a 2-day race there, the River City Regatta. And so our next Shoot the Shit will be June 12th, Friday, June 12th. So hopefully you'll be there to join me. Let's see here. I think Junior is in the house. Good morning, Junior. It is good to have you here, my friend. I hope you're doing well. And I'm excited about the changes you've got going with the training and the systems you're throwing in there. It's pretty powerful using your phone. It really is. All right, let's see here. I'm double checking. We got a bunch of you on the live today. And let's see here. I'm trying to make everything work. This iPad is small, so I cannot see everything all the time. Well, I'm going to guess that we have no questions. I'm going to string out just for one more second. There's about a 15-second delay. So I say it, you're seeing it and hearing it 15 seconds after I do so. So when I stretch sometimes, that's all I'm doing. I'm giving you an opportunity to type. Looks like there are no questions. Hopefully you enjoyed today's STS. Your job for Monday, it's inventory. Are you going software route and assigning it to somebody, do the research and get going? Or are you going to create the spreadsheet? The first version, not the perfect version. Start counting inventory. It's critical to knowing your food cost. With that said, I appreciate each and every one of you. Go out there, kick some ass. Peace. We'll see you soon.